The FAA and the NTSB took 10 pilots, placed them in simulators, recreated the events that led to this plane falling out of the sky. Do you know how many of them were able to safely land the planes? Not one.
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 movies that were ruined once we found out the truth.
Imagine if you had suddenly learned that the people, the places, the moments most important to you were not gone, not dead, but worse, they've never been.
For this list, we'll be looking at major motion pictures that took some pretty big creative licenses with movies based on real events. Plot points will be discussed, so a spoiler warning is in effect. What movie did you learn the truth about? Let us know in the comments. Number 10, Captain Phillips. Tom Hanks may have portrayed a hero in the movie, but the truth about Captain Richard Phillips is something else entirely.
You had $30,000 and a way to Somalia. It wasn't enough.
In the movie, Phillips gives himself up to pirates in exchange for saving his crewmates. Yet, according to the real crew, Phillips was no hero.
Left out of the entire story, says Perry, is the captain's recklessness that steered the Maersk Alabama into pirate-infested waters.
He had ignored multiple emails about staying clear of Somalia and failed to listen to his colleagues who begged him to stay clear.
Then we're on our own down the coast through the Somali Basin, all the way down to Mombasa.
Chief engineer Mike Perry apparently was a far greater hero, as he helped the team lock themselves downstairs while the pirates ransacked the ship.
Look at me, sure. Look at me, sure. I'm the captain now.
The shipping company Maersk was taken to court over the incident and later settled with the 9 crew members included in the suit. Number 9, The Blind Side. Sandra Bullock won an Academy Award for her portrayal of Leanne Toohey in 2009's The Blind Side. Bullock's take on the Toohey character was pretty close to the original, but the real Michael Oher took issue with his depiction.
That's right. Since then, there have been many reports that Michael Oher was not happy with how he was portrayed in that movie. But is it true?
The movie shows him having little to no knowledge of American football, which couldn't have been further from the truth.
We'll just go home and play some video games.
Look! Everybody at Wingate is expecting you to be a star football player. You don't want to let them down, do you?
I don't know.
In an NPR interview, Oher made it clear that he had been studying the game since he was a kid.
Get down, son. Get down and stand.
The movie also hastened the time it took him to take residence in Toohey's home. He stayed with countless others long before she ever offered to take him in.
We want to know if you would like to become part of this family.
Kind of thought I already was.
Number 8, Jimmy, All Is By My Side. How can a filmmaker possibly make a biopic about a musician without ever having any of their actual music?
I want my music to go inside the soul of a person. You know, for me, it's colors. I want people to feel the music the same way I see it.
This was the case for this story about the life of Jimi Hendrix. Since Hendrix's estate refused to license his music, the producers framed the movie prior to his first album, giving them more creative freedom around his sound.
One day, Jimmy. You've had one day in London, and you've just made such a royal mess of things.
Well, I didn't plan it.
They also introduced a fabricated story about Hendrix physically hurting his then-girlfriend, Kathy Etchingham. She went on record to counter the depiction on the film, defending Hendrix and claiming that he never laid a hand on her.
You write out lyrics you can't even read yourself, and that's supposed to make everything all right.
Number 7, Cinderella Man. When most people think of boxing movies, the immediate go-to is Rocky. But 2005's Cinderella Man gave us a great comeback story of how James J. Braddock overcame his broken right hands to become a world-renowned boxer.
You want to think about it?
You think you'd tell me something? What, like, boxing's dangerous, something like that?
Although Russell Crowe's depiction is fine, it's how Max Baer is portrayed that steers this movie in the wrong direction. The film shows Baer as a ruthless boxer who is out for blood and brags about the intensity of his knockouts.
You are far too pretty to be a widow. That's not nice, Max, not nice. On second thought, maybe I can comfort you after he's gone.
Hey, I said shut your goddamn mouth, you punk!
Baer's son, Max Baer Jr., countered this portrayal by saying his father was nowhere near the animal audiences were led to believe. Number 6, Amadeus. When one thinks of notable rivals, Antonio Salieri and Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart may not be the first to come to mind, but they were the subject of a 1984 film.
Why would God choose an obscene child to be his instrument?
Amadeus tells the story of Salieri confessing to a priest that he had plotted to murder the famous classical musician. The movie goes on to depict a very bitter Salieri who goes to great lengths to undermine his rival Mozart.
Because you choose for your instrument a boastful, lustful, smutty, infantile boy, and give me for reward only the ability to recognize the incarnation.
However, there's very little evidence to support that these two were ever adversaries. One of Mozart's own letters even mentions picking up Salieri and his wife on the way to see the magic flute, which Antonio thoroughly enjoyed.
You know what's ridiculous? Your libretto, that's what's ridiculous. Oh? Only an idiot would ask Wolfie to work on that stuff. 12-foot snakes, magic flutes.
Why be so friendly if they were bitter enemies? Number 5, A Beautiful Mind. It has been said that there's a fine line between genius and insanity. Our second Russell Crowe film on this list has him portraying the brilliant mathematician John Nash.
My quest has taken me through the physical, the metaphysical, the delusional, and back.
The movie manages to keep the spirit of who Nash was very close to the original, but does have some very obvious omissions. Nash's sexuality was nowhere near as straight as any math equation, for he had been known to seek the attention of men from time to time.
How do you know for sure?
I don't, I just believe it.
It's the same with love, I guess.
The hallucinations, too, were also off the mark. The real John Nash had minor delusions and would hear the odd voice, but never experienced the full sensory delusions seen on film.
Forgive me, I'm just always suspicious of new people.
See you next week.
I'll see you next week. So now that I know that you're real, who are you and what can I do for you?
Number 4, Argo. Sometimes Hollywood wants to take credit for everything.
You want to set up a movie in a week. You want to lie to Hollywood, a town where everybody lies for a living.
The 2012 movie Argo is supposed to give us the story of the Canadian Caper. It was a joint CIA and Canadian venture that rescued 6 U.S. diplomats from Iran, all while pretending to be filming a science fiction movie.
You really believe your little story is going to make a difference when there's a gun to our heads?
I think my story is the only thing between you and a gun to your head.
The film may have won Best Picture that year, but it left out one very crucial detail: Canada's role.
They sought refuge in the Canadian embassy. The Canadian ambassador, Kenneth Taylor, offered them the hospitality of the embassy despite the obvious risks.
When watching the film, one might think Canada was just a minor player. The truth is, much of the operation of the plan was thanks to Canadian involvement.
CIA are the good guys.
The Canadians are the good guys.
Yeah, we're not greedy, them too.
Even former President Jimmy Carter, who was in power at the time, commented on Canada's involvement. Number 3, 300. For a time, it seemed that there were countless memes and videos taken from the movie 300. Who doesn't remember hearing,
"This is Sparta!"
As the executive producer, Frank Miller has gone on record saying his depiction of the Spartans was not entirely accurate. In an Entertainment Weekly interview, Miller noted that his Spartans were nowhere near as brutal as the real ones.
Spartans! Ready your breakfast and eat hearty. But tonight, we dine in hell!
Additionally, the mere title, too, was a bit misleading, as an additional 7,000 Greek soldiers were aligned with the Spartans as well.
A new age has begun. An age of freedom. And all will know that 300 Spartans gave their last breath to defend it.
And let's not forget the fact that no Spartan soldier would have fought without some kind of body armor. Number 2, Pocahontas. We hate to break it to you, but we're about to poke holes in Pocahontas. It may be a beloved Disney classic, but much of the story doesn't pass the test of historical accuracy.
Pocahontas, look at me. I'd rather die tomorrow than live 100 years without knowing you.
Pocahontas was a real person, but that wasn't her real name. Known as Matuaka, her romance with John Smith was highly unlikely, given he was 28 and she was closer to 11.
No matter what happens to me, I'll always be with you. Forever.
In fact, years after his departure, she was captured by other English settlers and taken to another part of the state. There's also the question of whether or not Smith may have made up the entire story about being saved by Matuaka herself.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1. Flight. When you hear that a movie was inspired by real events, you might be tempted to think it's all based on fact. In reality, it's a single word that dictates how much truth is actually told.
It was as if I had reached my lifelong limit for lies. I could not tell one more lie.
2012's Flight was inspired by the real-life crash of Alaska Airlines Flight 261. That inspiration came from the actual role the plane performed before crashing and the cause of the mechanical failure.
Oh, Lord Jesus, we're inverted! Listen, we're level. We can maintain altitude like this.
The rest of the movie, including Denzel Washington's character, are completely fictitious. The real flight had no survivors, and there was no evidence that alcohol played a factor in the incident.
Now, an initial report shows that you had alcohol in your system at a level of 0.24.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.